Hello, so I am going to talk about the 10th, 11th, and 12th films that I watched in June for that 30 days, 30 films movie challenge that I decided to do. I just recorded 9, 10, 11, so I'm just continuing here. I'm just going to get right into it. And these three movies were kind of just meh, I guess. But I do have thoughts, so stick around, I guess, if you want to hear them. Great opening. I feel like I squint a lot. Do I squint a lot? I don't like that. I have to change that. So, the 10th film that I watched originally was called About Ray. No. It was originally called Three Generations, and then About Ray, and then it went back to Three Generations. But yeah, it's kind of known for both titles. So, Three Generations, aka About Ray, which is from 2015. And this is about Ray, who is a transgendered male, so a male in a female body. I know that my dad is like super unfamiliar with like these terms and he gets really confused, so I'm probably gonna overly explain, possibly. But Ray wants to undergo official like sex changes and start taking hormones and things like that, but he needs to have permission from both parents, and his dad is not in his life. It's family struggles, but on top of that, now that I think of it, it's family struggles, but also like the catalyst for the family drama that happens is because Ray wants to officially transition. Now that I say it like that, it makes me like not like it more. And I didn't really think this was bad. I just think it was trying to be more than it was. And also I tried to do some research after watching it because I wasn't sure how I felt about it, and especially because I go on Tumblr to save, because I was like posting on my Instagram and like Twitter like random screenshots and stills from the movies that I was watching for this movie challenge. I go on Tumblr to find photos from the movies. When I went to look up stills for this film, I found a lot of thoughts, a lot of confliction from the trans community, and I was trying to read reviews and what people were saying to understand more so where they were coming from and what the trans community thinks about the film and things like that. And there was like a lot of hate that I don't fully understand where it was coming from. And it was a lot of ranting, but not giving me like a full explanation on why something was bad or like how something could have been done better. It wasn't fully fleshed out. So I have kind of mixed feelings on it, especially because it was like, I liked the shots. I thought it had a strong cast, things like that, but I don't know if the story... I do feel like the story should have been told differently, maybe, or just like had a different story. I don't know. Also, I read this interview that I'll try to find and put it in the description, but it just seemed like the director randomly decided to like throw in like a transition being part of the film. Apparently, the film was originally going to be just about three generations of women living in the same house, which it's Ray. He lives with his mom and grandma, and all in this like New York apartment. And I'm assuming that Ray was actually supposed to be like a female character, but then she was like, the director was like having a conversation with somebody who was either going through a transition, him or herself, or who knew somebody who was going through a transition. So it was very like secondhand information, and then that's where the director, I'm sorry, I don't know the director's name, but that's where I'm pretty sure the director is a female, that's where she got the idea to include, like, have that be incorporated in this movie. And I don't know how much research she did upon making that decision. And I can't tell either, like, how... Yeah, I don't know how much research was done, and I can't tell from what's in the film. It did seem like it was trying to address certain things that are issues within the trans community and in terms of transitioning, and especially for those, like, there's the people who, like, understand where trans people are coming from, and then there's the people who are like, what do you mean you're a male inside a female body? Like, doesn't make sense to me. It also mentioned that, like, suicide is very high with those who transition, which is terrible. Although the first trans suicide hotline I heard was like newly opened. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but yeah, I saw that on Twitter. So they mentioned, the thing is, I don't think anything, again, sort of like the reviews that I was reading and people's, like, angry thoughts and negative thoughts on the film, just how those weren't fleshed out. I feel like the film wasn't fleshed out. It was sort of, it didn't go deeper. It should have more than just scratched the surface. I'm gonna, like, read some of my notes here, though. I like that it's going through the emotions and thoughts and perspectives this kind of decision would entail and bring up. Grandma doesn't understand and thinks she's just a lesbian. Mother understands but is worried and wants Ray to be happy at the same time. Father is a whole question mark thus far, and suicide and regret is brought up. But again, I just wrote brought up, which means it wasn't gone into a lot, which I do understand in the way that it's the other characters trying to deal with this, which I don't. I mean, Ray is underage, though. That's the other thing. That's why the other characters have to be brought in, because she needs permission. He needs permission from his parents, which I already mentioned before, but I forgot to explicitly say that he's underage, which is why he needs parents' permission and things like that to start doing hormone therapy and I'm sorry, I don't know what else there is, but things like that, where to start actually transitioning the body. It deals so much with, like, the people around Ray and not, like, I think it's equal, but still, like, so much, it seems like, is put on the thoughts of the people around Ray. I'm not necessarily saying that's, like, a good or bad thing. I'm just stating that that's what it's like, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. Because you can't do everything, and different stories can be told. So it's not necessarily that it's, like, right or wrong. It's just there can be a story that's told where it really focuses on the people around a person who is transitioning or wants to transition, and then you can have stories told that are focused on the person who's transitioning. Yeah. One thing that I did see a lot of people trying to speak out on with the film that I saw on Tumblr was that people wanted to support it because it has a really, like, Naomi Watts is in the cast, and Elle Fanning, and Susan Sarandon, and Sam, shoot, I can't remember his name because Sam Trammell? Something like that. He's in True Blood. And he's the dad in The Fault in Our Stars. So there's, like, a couple other things. But he's great. And then I really liked the grandma's girlfriend, who I'm so sorry I don't know the actress's name. But she was great. So, like, it had, like, a big... Oh, and the dad. The guy who... Or the dad... If you've seen the film, then you know why I said that like that. But I don't know that actor's name off the top of my head either. But, like, big names and, like, recognizable faces. And even though, like, I don't know if somebody who is trans was, like, involved in the film. That's another thing. I don't know how much research. Oh my god. I don't know how much research was done, or if trans people were talked to, or if someone who was trans, like, was involved in the making of the film, which, like, should have been, like, that would have been nice, but maybe having big names and recognizable faces would help the film, and for more stories like this to be told in Hollywood. Like, that's what people were, like, trying to be positive about and be like, hey, we can't have it all right now, but maybe if this film does well, then another film can be made later on that will be a more authentic, more, like, better representation of a trans story or something like that. I feel like I'm all over the place. Downside so far is not having an LGBTQIA plus actor play Ray. Although, I mean, again, I'm saying this as like a cis person, but it is supposed to be like Ray about to transition, like his body is still a her, you know? So to have somebody who is actually, you would still have to find somebody who hasn't officially transitioned, you know what I mean? I do think that you could tell that like Elle Fanning as Ray tried to change her mannerisms and like the way that she was sitting and the way that she was walking, things like that, which I feel like is really obvious. Like, of course somebody would do that, but I do think that you could tell that she cared about it. Naomi Watts looks at Elle, or like, you know, those are the actors' names. Naomi Watts looks at Elle as if she was her own child. Yeah, there was a great shot towards the end where they're just having sort of like a mother-son moment, and it just seemed like the mom was like really seeing the child, and like, I don't know, I was like, wow, Naomi Watts. And then I wrote strong cast because it was a strong cast, and I also really like Naomi Watts. I should really move on to the next movie though. Even though I don't, oh my god, I'm gonna have a lot to say for the third one probably. So we're gonna go over this one pretty quickly, hopefully. So the 11th film that I watched, and obviously at the end of this video I'm gonna say, tell me what you think about these films if you've seen them, but like specifically I think for Three Generations and like the next one, not the one I'm about to do, but the last one in this video, those ones in particular I would like to know people's thoughts on if they've seen them. Also, I watched Three Generations and this next one, Julie and Julia. They were both on Netflix. I'd have to check on that still, but I'll leave it in the description if they're still available there or whether they're not. So yeah, the next movie that I watched was Julie and Julia from 2009. This was just like okay. At the time, I just needed something that I thought would be like cute and uplifting and hopeful. And while that's like somewhat what I got, it still wasn't like up to par with like where I thought it would be. I wrote like down specifics as to why I needed something like lighthearted and stuff like that at the time, but I'm not gonna get into that. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing that I'm sure no one really cares about. At least no one who's watching this video, most likely. Almost an hour into the film and I just realized I haven't written anything. So I went a whole hour without having written anything. Julie and Julia, if you don't know, is about Julie, who is, she's like a emergency hotline person, on the phone, you know? For something specific though, I don't know. Anyway, she has a kind of boring job, to be honest. And she decides to start writing this blog where she follows one of Julia Child's cookbooks. I don't know if she has multiple. I'm sorry, I don't know that much about Julia Child. But she's following recipes in one specific cookbook, and she's going to do all the recipes within a year. And that's what she does. She makes the food, she follows the recipes, and then blogs about it. And also it ends up involving some of her like personal life and random things like that, random thoughts that she's just having, stuff like that. That's what the film is about. And it just has a sort of like lack of plot, which again, I usually don't mind. I actually usually like that, but it just there wasn't enough substance for me. I liked having Julie's story, and then also going back and like in the past and seeing like Julia Child, how her book came to be and how she became a chef and how she became like interested in cooking and things like that. And she was always sort of a foodie from the way that they portrayed her in the film, and which actually I think that's the best part about the film. It made me want to know more about Julia Child and like look up some Julia Child recipes and things like that, because I'm like really into cooking. I like cooking, I like baking, things like that. So and it just made me more interested in Julia Child than anything else. There were some like really good shots in this film though too. I think the costumes were great, specifically for the like Julia Child parts because that was like more so in the past, not like the contemporary time that the film was taking place, like when it was made. And yeah, so the costumes were great for like Meryl Streep, who plays Julia Child. I don't have a lot to say about Meryl Streep. I kind of think she's overrated. Like, I don't get why everyone loves her so much. That's the thing. Amy Adams played Julie. She's freaking adorable. And I was just like, hey, I watched two Amy Adams movies in June. How I didn't even realize that because she looks so different. She has like really short hair in this, and it just like different calibers of films, different films. Yeah, but she was like super cute. And whenever I see her in earlier films where she is acting cute, I'm like, wow, like what a contrast to like the more like, I feel like she has a lot more like sultry, sexy roles nowadays. Specifically, I'm thinking of like Nocturnal Animals, American Hustle. I don't know. Those are the first films of hers that come to mind for some reason. Anyway, Meryl Streep, what apparently I wrote, Meryl Streep, I can't speak anymore. Meryl Streep is delightful as Julia Child, I will say. So here I am saying it to you now. I'd like to learn more about Julia Child. I wrote down the exact time that I wanted the screenshot for, like, to post about it. Again, talking about the scenes that deal with Julia Child. I wrote that the sets of those segments are beautiful, over-furnished, but not gaudy. And, yeah, I noticed the sets and the design of things, and I really liked that part. But again, it was just sort of like I watched it, and now I'm more interested in Julia Child, but now I'm gonna watch more films. Like, that was it. So, finally, moving on to something that I feel like I'm just gonna, like, rant about in certain ways, or just, like, I'm just gonna talk about it a lot, pretty much. Probably to the end of how much time I have left to film. Wake and Fright from 1971. This is an Australian film about this man who is a school teacher. He hates his job and wants to get out, and he wants to, like, officially live in Sydney. Like, I think he, like, goes to Sydney for the summer, and then during the school year, he lives in this, like, really, really small town. There's, like, really not that many people. Things are really far away from each other. I don't know. This is one of the few Australian films that I've seen. So the school teacher is on his way to Sydney for the summer, and he ends up, like, stopping in what is called the Yabba, which is short for a specific town that I don't know the name of, and I don't think I have written down. And he gets, like, caught up in the life there, and there's no women. It's just all guys, and there are women, but not a lot. But there's mostly guys, and they're all just, like, drinking beer and gambling and hunting, and, like, that's it. Like, that is my nightmare. That is, like, everything I don't want. I don't drink. I have had alcohol before, but I'm, like, not a drinker. Like, no, I don't like alcohol. There are other reasons why I don't drink, though. Other than it just tasting disgusting. I think gambling is, like, so stupid. Like, you do you. If you like gambling, go for it. I think it's stupid. I don't understand. That's your money. It's just not my thing. Hunting? No, thank you. Just no. Oh man, I'm so gonna run out of time. But this was actually mentioned to me by Reese Gallagher, who is I've seen him on, like, Dice K's channel and other people's channels, just commenting and, like, during live shows and stuff like that. And so I had mentioned in a previous video that I like psychological thrillers, and he had heard that this is a psychological thriller. It's also marketed, like, I've seen that's a genre that it's under on other websites. So but he, like, felt really bad. He saw, like, my post, I'm assuming, like, on Instagram or something, that I had, like, problems with it, and it obviously things that I'm gonna explain now, but, like, Reese, like, it's okay. Like, I don't want you to take it personally because you had mentioned it, even though I already told him this. Like, I'm saying it in this video as well, because it's a film. It's a film. I watched this on Amazon Prime, and I do think that the Amazon Prime like description isn't very good. I actually think the Letterboxd description, if you want to more so know what the film is about, like even though I just explained it, that is more accurate than like other descriptions that I had seen online. So the one on Letterboxd, and actually when I was logging this on my Letterboxd account, which I'll leave in the description and stuff, Dana Danger on Letterboxd said, the most intense exploration of toxic masculinity and queer panic ever, which I thought was great. And granted, she rated the film like 5 out of 5 stars, or like 4.5 out of 5 stars. So she really likes the film. So that wasn't like a diss necessarily, like a negative thing. It's just that is so much of what the film is. Specifically though, something that I have to mention, and it's probably going to be the last thing I'm able to say because I'm going to run out of time in 3 minutes. There is a hunting scene where a bunch of kangaroos are murdered, basically, like real kangaroos. And during the scene I was like, man, I hope this isn't real and things like that. But then I ended up looking into it and it was real. Like, those are real kangaroos you are watching dying, and it's awful. It's awful. Like, no. But so I have a quote here from the cinematographer Brian West. They ended up, they hired licensed hunters. So he said, the hunters were getting really drunk, which is just baffling to me. Like, hunters and they're drinking? No, they have guns. You're on a movie set. What are you doing? People could be shot. I can't. And they started to miss. It was becoming this orgy of killing, and we, the crew, in brackets, were getting sick of it. And then that's the end of the quote. And then I wrote, kangaroos hopped about helplessly with gun wounds and trailing intestines. The crew orchestrated a power failure in order to end the hunt. Like, why would you have... Like, why can't you just be like, hey, we're shutting this down? Like, they had to fake a power failure? Oh, wow. And so that last, like, sentence wasn't part of a quote, or those last 2 sentences weren't part of a quote, but that's something that I read online about the film. Man. Oh, my. That just sounds... It sounds insane. I don't even have words. So that's Wake and Fright. That's really all I can say right now, because again, I'm going to run out of time in like 1 minute now. I do have to say, I was kind of like contemplating a lot. Like, I couldn't tell if he was being played, the main character, the school teacher guy, was being played by like all these other characters. Like, I couldn't tell if they were trying to suck him in, or if they were like genuinely his friends, or if they were just pretending and wanted to get his money and things like that. I just couldn't tell, especially because I had gone into it thinking it was more psychological. I was thinking of it psychological in like a manipulative way, instead of just being like what this character was going through and how it was affecting him psychologically. Do you get the difference I'm making there? So I think I was overthinking things at times, and then at one point I was just like, okay, this is what I'm watching, and I'm actually going to run out of time now. So, perhaps I have more thoughts on like my Instagram post, which I'll link in the description. I'm going to have so many things in the description, but I have to go. I have 20 seconds. So, thank you for watching. If you've seen any of these films, please let me know what you think of them, stuff like that. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Okay, bye.